What's up, guys? It's Masenko here, and I am coming to you with week 8 of UGA. This video is a little late, unfortunately. I just took kind of a week off to recuperate and get some rest and relaxation. But I'm back, and I just wanted to do what we've been doing so far and just go over the match that I had last week against the Bavarian Landress. Now, this wasn't a particularly good week for me. I didn't do quite well as I wanted to. I didn't quite have the amount of prep time that I really wanted. Um, Funky usually plays earlier in the week. I just sort of accepted that and was cool with that. But unfortunately, it meant that I only had like a couple days to actually prep for the match. And obviously prep time plays a big factor into performance. What you bring really matters, and I felt like definitely this was a week where I could have definitely benefited from some more time. And that's not to take anything away from Funky. I think he played incredibly well. I think he prepped incredibly well, and it would have been a pretty rough match no matter what how much time I had. I think this was kind of a difficult matchup for me, especially with the set that he brought being so strong against me. And honestly, he brought pretty much almost exactly what I expected because it was very strong against me. So looking at his team, there's some very interesting things going on here. I think overall, the best things for him is definitely this Charizard as like a carry. And you'll see that this is exactly what he does. Charizard is just really good here for a few reasons. First and foremost is my Sun mode. It can take advantage of that without having to set up Sun himself with Sableye, which is what usually that's the plan. And it gets access to a lot of moves that are just kind of decent against my team. It gets like max overgrowth if I were to bring Inteleon. It gets, max Airstream, which does really well against Venusaur. It does really well against my Machamp, my Gallade. I am a little bit flying weak. It gets ground coverage with Scorching Sands against my Ninetales. And my Klefki. So yeah, and not to mention fire coverage, which is just good against Klefki and Venusaur anyway. So yeah, it's a pretty strong Mon in this matchup. Does a ton of damage, and I don't have a lot of ways to mitigate it, honestly. I could try to set screens, I could try doing all sorts of other things, but ultimately at the end of the day, I need to really be worried about this Charizard, right? And the biggest reason I think this Charizard is so scary is because I don't really have any rock coverage on my team. I don't have a rock Mon. And, we know that Charizard is 4 times weak to rock, obviously. And it gets even worse when he has a Charty Berry on him, which he did in the game, making it even harder for me to use rock moves against it. I could use electric moves, but he has a Manectric, and Manectric can redirect that. I could use water moves, but he has a Gastrodon. Gastrodon redirects that. If I want to do anything to Charizard, I might have to worry about this Tangela. Tangela makes it so that other than with my Venusaur, I need to put safety goggles on my Mons in order to actually hit what's behind it. And I also have to worry about this Sableye, who could just quash me at any time and make it so that his Charizard outspeeds me. So there's a lot to worry about here, I think this is overall a pretty difficult matchup for me. Not to mention that he could also just bring like Coughing and shut down a lot of my abilities. I do have a lot of Prankster Mons. I have Mons with, setting up Sun and stuff. Kangaskhan with not Inner Focus, with Scrappy to fake out his Sableye. He could shut that down if he really wanted to. There's just so many little things he could do to me that makes it difficult. And I also think that just kind of what I brought, I'm not super proud of. I think I ended up leaning into Zapdos, because Zapdos does get rock coverage in the form of Ancient Power, and being able to max Rockfall a Charizard with a Mon that is equal in speed to it potentially is pretty good, with the ability to get some speed control with speed boosts and whatnot. The only issue is this Manectric, who I'm having such a hard time getting into position against. I think the biggest thing for me was for this set was just kind of going a little bit too hard and like failing to position correctly and time my windows of opportunity to gain an advantage. I think this was definitely one of my worst weeks that I've had. And that sucks because it was definitely a week that Funky was playing incredibly well. So, yeah, so, I mean, not to go too much into the team matchup, because I think overall there's a lot of flexibility on both sides to what they bring, but I guess I'll just point out one more time that I think Charizard's really good. I think Manectric and Sableye are both must-brings. I think Urshifu usually comes. Very good Mon, especially since he doesn't have any other fighting types to deal with my Kangaskhan. I expected Latias, and I'm not 100% sure. I think he did bring the Latias. And I expected probably like Coughing and maybe, well, that would have been... Yeah, I think I didn't expect Gastrodon to come, honestly, and I expected the Manectric. I think the one Mon that he brought that I didn't expect was this Audino. But we'll go into my team builder real quick, which I have right here. So I end up going with a Zapdos, and I bring Ancient Power, Rising Voltage, Hurricane, Detect on it. The Rising Voltage is very good once I can set Electric Terrain. The only issue is I have to be very careful and play around that Manectric so that I don't accidentally hit something with it. I also have to be careful with Gastrodon as well because he's immune to it. So really I'm going to be mostly spamming Hurricane Ancient Power. I put a Life Orb on it just to get that little extra damage. In my calcs it seemed like it really kind of needed that in order to get the one-hit KOs and max that it really needed. And then I paired it with someone like Inteleon, who with Icy Wind. So Inteleon, except for, well, I mean, Inteleon is faster than everything on his team, outside of Scarfed Mons. So being able to set an Icy Wind and allow my Zapdos to outspeed at +1, or at them being -1, I can also max Airstream, get a +1 speed. Zapdos should be in a decent position. That's kind of the idea, and I unfortunately am not able to execute on this quite well. I think we'll talk about why in the aftermath, but yeah. So I also bring Mist. I feel like there's a good reasons to do this. The in Manectric in practice was kind of wrecking me when it came to its use of like Eerie Impulse and Snarl potentially, or Snarl. You don't usually want both. And Light Screen was pretty decent against Charizard as well. Then we get Kangaskhan with a Chople Berry. We know we survive a close combat from an Urshifu with this, which is really nice. We bring Fake Out to fake out Sableye with Scrappy, and Rock Slide, Sucker Punch to sort of have some spammable moves against him, and a Circle Throw just in case they decide to bring Trick Room, which I didn't think they would bring, but I wanted to at least one answer to it just in case. The next one is Rapidash with an Assault Vest. Rapidash had a pretty decent matchup overall. The only issue is you'll see game 2 he brings this Scizor, and I didn't expect him to bring Scizor against my Sun Mode. I didn't think it was a particularly good Mon. But as you'll see, this Scizor with Priority Bullet Punch does a lot of damage. And against the Rapidash, it'll one-shot it in game 2 when I honestly didn't expect it to attack that slot. I definitely should have, but once again, I don't think I was playing my best. So the switch into Rapidash there was a really, really scary hit. Made it so that I basically lost that game right there, then and there. I was really hoping to max the Rapidash game too. Venusaur with a Koba Berry to survive Charizard max Airstreams, and some interesting coverage with Protect to just sort of stall it out. I didn't really know I was going to use Venusaur that much. I didn't really want to set up Sun for him so that his Charizard could do well. And in fact, I actually brought Rain Dance on this Klefki here to weaken Charizard's output, while also allowing me to hit like Hurricanes outside of max with this Zapdos. I also brought Light Screen. I brought Dazzling Gleam to deal with this Urshifu and a couple other things. And then I also have Switcheroo Iron Ball, which is kind of an interesting speed control option that I brought. It wasn't, like I said, I think a lot of these things I could have definitely refined a lot better in terms of like what sets that I brought. But I actually think this was an okay bring as well. The Iron Ball is kind of interesting. Unfortunately, it makes it, even though it grounds Pokemon, it doesn't actually let those grounded Pokemon take. They only take neutral damage to like ground moves. So, for instance, and the reason this is important is if I Iron Ball the Charizard, and now it's on the ground, then basically, even though it's a fire type now, just like a plain fire type, well, I mean, I guess it's a flying type, but it's neutral to ground with flying, and it's super effective from ground type hits, and it can now hit it with ground type moves. Usually that would make it 2 times effective, right? Make it super effective, but unfortunately, for some reason, Iron Ball doesn't work this way, and it makes no sense, and Nintendo is really annoying sometimes with how they make their stuff work in their games, but it doesn't work like that. It just makes it so that ground moves are neutral. But regardless of this, I do really like the speed cut that's immediate as opposed to like, you know, the dynamic speed cut that Iron Ball provides as opposed to something like a Lagging Tail. And I also like the ability that even though it does not super effective, I do like the ability to hit Charizard with ground type moves like a Max Quake from a Venusaur or a Rapidash. Is really important to hit to get that special defense boost on it. And I don't want to have to worry about it, you know, taking something from like an ally switch that I didn't expect or something. Okay, another thing that I forgot to mention now that I mentioned ally switch is this Snipe Shot. It's actually really good against Funky's team. He really likes to bring ally switch on his Sableye, I think, and also sometimes his Wigglytuff. And Snipe Shot can't be redirected, so I can still hit whatever I was intending to hit, even if he does ally switch. And it also hits whatever it's intending to hit if there's a Gastrodon on the field with Storm Drain. So that's really nice. So I figured Inteleon was pretty good with that Snipe Shot. So why don't we watch the game and we'll talk about the aftermath after the credits. All right. So here is the final results. I do see that it is week 9, not week 8, and I said week 8 at the beginning of the video, so I might go back and change that. But anyway, here are the results. So yeah, so a few things about this match. I think that first and foremost, I guess a couple positives on my end shows that Zapdos is actually just an insanely powerful Pokemon. Even from such a back foot position, the fact that I was able to have a positive KD with this Zapdos and do some work with it was like pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, you see his team, you know, the Charizard and the Manectric are doing a lot of work for him, and it's just a matter of really the fact that this Chartyberry Charizard with a Manectric who's giving him good damage control and just like redirecting this electric attacks from Zapdos made it really hard for me to win this game. And also he was max speed on that Manectric, meaning that even at -1, the way I had calced the Zapdos, which maybe was a mistake on my end, made it so that even at -1 Manectric or +1 Zapdos, whatever, I was not outspeeding it. As you saw at the end of that first game, if Zapdos was able to hit that Manectric, I might have won. I'm not 100% sure, but the fact that he was max speed on that Manectric made it so that my Zapdos was underspeeding it, and I couldn't even get the hit on it before Manectric moved. So that was really unfortunate. Yeah, so anyway, but yeah, you see this Manectric is doing so much work. You see this Charizard's doing so much work. It's just really hard for me to kill, hard for me to outspeed, hard for me to get into a position without a good lead. And I think my leads kind of suffered, unfortunately. I think I did not bring the best leads for these games. I don't think I should have brought Zapdos out front. I think I should have maybe led with Clefairy or something like that. So unfortunately, not much to really say about this one. I think it was just a matter of I just needed to have better prep, and the fact that Funky was basically playing to all of the win conditions that I needed to basically shut down without having the ability to. So it was really a matter of him being able to really identify my weaknesses on my team that he could exploit with his team, and he played that perfectly, and I was unable to cover for those weaknesses, you know. And yeah, that's basically it. Not much else to say. It's just a clean win from him against a team that was struggling to get into position against this hyper aggressive Charizard, you know, and this Scizor and the Manectric, who was so fast and doing a lot of damage with his Thunderbolts, you know. So yeah, it's just one of those games. Gotta respect it. And I guess that's pretty much it. You know, GG's to Funky. I think he has such a great chance of making it to playoffs. He's been killing it with his wins. And yeah, GG's, and thanks for watching, guys.